Hello and welcome to the first video of the Introduction to Computer Programming tutorial series. My name is Kevin, and to my right I have...
Brian. We wanted to create this video series so that you can basically hear a conversation about software development, what you're going to find, what's valuable to know, what you should focus on, what to expect. And these are all things that we've learned over the last 10 years as software developers.
And the main reason we wanted to do this is because Brian and I had no one to do this for us.
That's true.
Neither one of our parents were in the field. We really didn't have anybody.
All of your classmates are age mates, so they don't have any more experience than you do.
And
your teachers have never worked a real job ever
yeah,
in their
that's
life.
true. Because they just work in the university
Yeah, they're
system.
stuck in academia. If you can't do, you teach.
Yeah, exactly. So we never really had that advantage. So we stepped into the workforce with one expectation and completely got blindsided.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can help some of you guys that are kind of moving in that direction manage your expectations and help you get a good start in the field of software development. And also to define whether this is something that you want to do in the first place.
Right. These are a couple things that are necessary skills to be a software developer, at least a halfway decent one. You have to be able to solve problems. And you have to be able to solve problems well. You have to be able to solve problems fast. You probably didn't start getting into this without that skill set, but this is definitely the most important skill that you can have.
Absolutely. Adding to that is the explicit attention to detail, because you need to be able to break down these problems into small parts. One of the more popular methods of software development is the modularity concept, where you have different portions of your code that are specialized doing different functions. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's important is because you can, if you write your code in that way, you can reuse things. It's easy to support, manage, document, and that sort of thing. So your programming skills and your ability to break down problem solving is a direct link to how good your code, in the end, actually ends up.
Also, if a problem got to you as a software developer, it's probably a problem that was more complicated than somebody else could solve. And a very common approach to that is the conquer and divide. So in order to conquer and divide, you need to divide into smaller parts and be focused on all of the details and moving parts of the problem. But it also means that you need to be able to research, because there's nothing wrong with not knowing.
Absolutely.
When you approach a problem, how to solve it.
Most of the time, you're not going to have a clue at all what you're doing, especially if you're new to the field.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to know, and this is where college comes in handy, because in college you don't learn how to write a lot of the software that you do in the field.
Nor are you taught by your teachers.
Right, but what you do learn is how to research to get the information that you need to know in order to do what you have to do.
Right.
Having that understanding and know where to get the information, know how to use that information, research is key in this industry.
But then again, you're here watching this video, so you probably already got that part.
That's true. You know that we have the best source of information, and that's why you're coming to us.
Exactly. So. Also, even though it sucks, it's horrible, it feels like you're going through somebody else's dirty sock drawer or whatever, the ability to read code you did not write is unfortunately a necessary part of your job.
Especially
when you're new.
Especially when you're new. You new guys are going to have to walk in. You're going to be... The first thing that you're probably going to be given, just to kind of see where you're at, is some mess that somebody left for you.
Right.
Either the guy that quit that you replaced, or just some horrible piece of code that nobody wants to support. And they're just like, we're just giving it to the new guy because none of us want to own this.
Right. So, even though it seems like it'd be faster to write it from scratch, sometimes that's the case. Most of the times, that might be the case at first, but as you learn to read other people's code faster, if the code seems like it's stable enough to run, just read the code, do what you need to do, move on, come back to it if there's time allowed.
And because there's not one programming language, you're going to be running across many different kinds.
Yes.
So when you're given projects where you're taking on code that's already been written, expect to see a lot of languages that span the entire spectrum. So it's important to understand, at least have a basic understanding of as many languages as you can.
Also, you have to be able to take responsibility. Own up to your mistakes, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You can't learn anything without making a mistake.
Absolutely.
It's just not possible. You can't be so risk-adverse you do nothing, because you won't learn anything. If you don't learn anything, you'll never become valuable.
I brought down an entire production system once.
Or 10 times.
Well...
Or 20 times.
I made a mistake.
I do it like every day.
It was because of that mistake. Just for fun. It was because of that mistake I understood. Oh. Okay. Don't do this. And I think for the most part, management is relatively reasonable with, depending on how big of a group you have. But, try to manage your mistakes. Try to do the best you can, but don't be afraid of it. And make sure that when you make a mistake, own it.
Right. Also, another thing is, some people have this saying that they say, greater minds than ours did this project. Greater minds than ours thought of these things, I'm sure. You know, and that's kind of like a manager's way to prevent you from doing something new. You know, it's kind of part of their risk aversion thing. Just because there was greater minds than ours, or whatever the phrase you might think, because people in the past probably knew better, because they'd been there longer, well, the greater minds aren't there now.
Yeah,
So don't be afraid to try something new.
absolutely not.
There's nothing wrong with it. You are the greater mind. You are somebody else's greater mind when you leave.
Yes,
And so on and so on.
and they left you their project.
Yep.
You are now the greater mind.
Exactly.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to try something new.